Hello anime and manga fans, I'm Kyle Glockner, and welcome back to another episode of Animanga. I've always loved watching anime movies a bit more than a full series because not only can you experience an entire story in such a condensed amount of time, but more often than not, the animation budget is much higher for films, which means the studio can really go all out when animating the story, with my favorite example being Studio Shaft's animation of Kizumonogatari. Now, on a side note, I've always been a fan of Kyoto Animation, especially one of the more recent series, Violet Evergarden. So when I heard KyoAni was adapting a series that had gotten a lot of praise when it was just a manga, I knew I had to see it. So today, I'll be reviewing Koe no Katachi, or as it's known in English, A Silent Voice.
People try to put us to down, talking about my generation, just because we get around, talking about my generation.
A Silent Voice begins with Shoya Ishida taking care of some business before heading over to a bridge where he planned to kill himself. However, after he comes to his senses right before he jumps, he recalls his elementary school days where he met Shoko Nishimiya, a deaf girl who transferred into his class. Due to his indifferent and slightly rebellious nature, Shoya joins his classmates in bullying Shoko on a daily basis. However, once the principal got involved, Shoya got singled out as the bully, while his classmates denied their involvement. This led to Shoya being a social outcast for the rest of his time as a student. When we arrive back in the present, Shoya, now in high school, ends up meeting Shoko once again, and we see an unlikely friendship blossom between them. Now I know that's a lot to take in, but this is all important establishment for the events later in the story. A Silent Voice might come off as an average coming-of-age tale, but I feel like the story, particularly in the characters within that story, are what set it apart from other shows or movies. For starters, I feel like A Silent Voice really captures the aspect of how different people grow up very well. You can really see the difference in the thought and motivations of elementary school Shoya and high school Shoya, but also the rest of his classmates as they grow up. In elementary school, no one really thinks about the consequences of what they do. They just want to entertain themselves, and if they do that by picking on a deaf girl, then that's what they'll do. No one really thinks about how Shoko feels or how much trouble they cause her and her family. But now that Shoya has grown up and matured, he's able to recognize just how mean he was to Shoko, and he genuinely wants to make things right. But we also see this in Shoya's classmates that we meet once again. Each of them has changed in their own way, such as his friend Naoka, who apologized for throwing Shoya under the bus, but is very blunt about her hatred for Shoko. We also see another one of Shoya's classmates, Miki, who completely denies her involvement in the bullying. Seeing how each of Shoya's classmates reacts to the bullying and meeting Shoko again really helps to make each character feel alive with their own sense of morals and adds complexity to their thoughts and actions. But above all, we get to see how Shoko herself responds to meeting those who traumatized her. Rather than holding a grudge and being bitter, she chooses to try to put the past behind them and become friends with everyone, and that really goes far to show what kind of person Shoko is. Putting the story and characters aside though, I feel as though I need to talk about the production of the movie itself. This film does a fantastic job of portraying how deaf people communicate with others and the complications that can ensue. Shoko attempts to communicate with her classmates by using sign language and a notebook where she can write her thoughts down. However, not many of her classmates understood sign language or bothered to learn it for that matter. On top of that, there are certain nuances and speech quirks that are difficult to translate into writing, which make it really hard for anyone to explain things to Shoko, and even harder for them to understand her. To give an example, there's one scene where Shoko tries to clean nasty messages from Shoya's desk after the class starts making him the subject of their bullying. Because he can't understand Shoko, he misinterprets her actions and gets into a fight with her. I believe this one scene perfectly captures the communication barrier between the deaf and those who are not. To note one more thing, in the English dub of the movie, deaf actress Lexi Cowden was cast as Shoko. I cannot stress enough how much this enhances the English dub of the film. While Sayori Hayami's performance in the Japanese dub is fantastic, Lexi Cowden's performance is enough of a reason to go check out the English dub of this film. Overall, A Silent Voice is a beautiful film and one that I can definitely recommend. In my personal view, it's second only to Your Name. And after you watch the movie, go ahead and check out the manga. It sits at 64 chapters, so it's a great way to experience the story at a slightly slower pace. A Silent Voice was directed by Naoko Yamada and animated by Kyoto Animation, while the manga was written and illustrated by Yoshitaki Oima. Like I said, if you have a chance, go check out A Silent Voice. But that's all the time I have for today, so let me know what you think by tweeting me at ZTV Goofing Off using the hashtag Animanga. Until then, I'm Kyle Glockner, and I'll see you next time on Animanga.